Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So welcome to another episode of Christian Apologetics. And today I'm going to talk about a very important issue, and that is the declining of Christianity in the Western world, in the Western countries, in the Western society. This is just an image that I found, which is very emblematic. This representation of a character from the US literature, that is dropping a book that is written their Bible, as if, okay, I don't need the Bible anymore. Now I reached this stage in this modern society where I don't need anymore these ideas about God, these irrational beliefs, that there is a being, that I'm gonna be have to be accountable to it, or that this being that controls and knows everything about me. I don't have that anymore. I've progressed through. I don't need that. Now I'm a superior human being. And now that with my increased faculties, with all the research, with all the science, all the things that we've been able to accomplish as a species, now we can finally get freed of religion, of the bondage, of the corruption, manipulation, and oppression of religion, and especially of Christianity. Having this God that is a narcissistic God that demands love, that demands worship, and when you don't give it to him, he just tortures you and punishes you eternally in hell. A God that is a moral master, a God that just commands genocide, infanticide, a God that lies, a God that seems to change, between one action and the other, just changes as he sees fit, a God that is jealous, a God that is angry, and so forth. No one would want to worship that God, right? And the Bible, it's just a myth. It's just full of contradictions. It's man-made. We know. The more we study the Bible, the more we are able to see this, and therefore, no, we don't need that anymore. Now we are evolving, right? We're progressing further. Now we are finally critical thinkers. Now we're finally free to think, to not anymore be blinded or be mind washed, by these doctrines, by these churches, by these beliefs. And now we can finally be free and embrace agnosticism, embrace atheism, embrace whatever we want to believe about the world, about reality. And that's it. Finally, we're free. Now we're free, and now we don't have this bondage, corruption, and of religion, especially of Christianity. And this is something that, unfortunately, it is true. It's happening throughout the Western world, especially. As I said before, the more advanced the countries with more like welfare, the countries with better quality of life, all these countries, they see a declining in the percentage of Christianity. So once again, remember, always take this data with the fingers, because yes, it's true that these numbers are decreasing, but we'll remember that these numbers take into consideration many Christian denominations, some of which are not even Christian, because they deny straight away fundamentals of the Christian faith, like Jesus being God, or Jesus having been raised from the dead, and or God being one, 3 in 1, and so forth. So again, these numbers are just general numbers, but these just give you the idea that despite involving and having all the different denominations of Christianity, there is a reduction. There is a declining in the percentage. So in people saying that they belong or that they believe in Christianity. And instead, you can see that the people that say that they have no religion or that they don't have any belief in any religion has increased, once again, almost of 9%. So Christianity has decreased for 9%, and instead, no religion has increased to almost 39%. So they're almost equal now. It's just a 5% difference. And this was done like between 2016 and 2021. So it's pretty recent. And this is true. You can find many different articles, many different things, especially on the US. This is happening especially in the US, but many different Western countries can just say the same. Now, overall, if we consider the entire world, so we consider also like South America, Africa, Asia, the overall Christianity is still growing, because in these countries like Africa, like Asia, the like Middle East and Asia, even if Christianity is persecuted, because most of the countries there are either atheist or they are Muslim countries, but still despite that, the amount of Christians is increasing. So overall, if we consider the entire world, Christianity is still growing as a religion, but in the more advanced countries is is reducing. And my question is, why is that? Why are people leaving Christianity, especially younger people, between like the age of 18 to 30, even until 40 years old? Why are they leaving Christianity? Even when they were raised, these countries, the history of these Western countries is actually Christian. So many of these countries were had Christian beliefs. They have Christian democracies, or they were grounded in Christian rights. The rights of human beings being equal, for example. That's something that is a Christian belief that comes from the Bible, and so forth. And now, as the society has progressed, as research has advanced, as there is more science now, we know more about the world, we know more about society, and now that we are evolving, right? As I said before, now we're leaving Christianity, and many young people, even if they were brought up going to church or being Christians, now they're not Christians anymore. Or there are some other things like progressive Christianity or deconstruction Christianity. These kind of movements within Christianity that are considered to be Christian, but they're not really Christian, because once again, they deny the straightaway fundamental faiths of the Bible and of the Gospels. So of course, even if they label themselves to be Christian, that doesn't mean that they're actually Christians. So just remember about that. So my question is, why is this happening? And unfortunately, if you look at YouTube and you just search for this, Deconstructing Christianity, you can see how many people actually upload videos talking about their journey, where they were believers, they were evangelicals, or they were Christians. And then, as they grew up, they started asking themselves questions. They started to realize, well, the Bible is not really what I thought it would be. They were shut down. They were not encouraged to think, to have critical thinking, but they were encouraged to never question the Bible, never doubt, to just believe blindly, confess. That's it. That's what you have to do. That's what God wants you to do. This kind of authoritative person of God, as if God, if you don't do what He says, then God immediately punishes you and He condemns you, and all these, and a group of these things, right? Maybe bad experiences in the church, maybe some bad experiences with fellow Christians, maybe other people that also went to the church or consider themselves to be Christians were not actually, so they ended up like hurting others or doing very bad things that cause these people to then get away from God and get away from the church and Christianity. And there are many videos, like these are just some that I was able to find, like YouTube is recommending to me, but there are even more, and there are even more videos about these people then denouncing Christianity or explaining all the problems that they have with Christianity, all the reasons why I'm no longer a Christian, or the reasons why I'm deconstructing now my faith. This is a very modern term. That means, I'm losing all these beliefs that I was forced, or I was forced, to believe. Now I'm finally getting free. I'm finally abandoning all these things. I'm now finally able to think. I'm now finally able to embrace my identity, to be free from the bondage, of the oppression and the manipulation of the church, of Christianity. And you can look at some videos. Haven't really looked at these videos. I watch in particular one channel which is called Mindshift. And once again, guys, just a quick disclaimer. As I've always done in my videos, I don't want to make you think that I'm personally attacking these people, or that I disregard their experience, or that I don't care about what happened to them, or about the suffering, or about what they went through. I really do care about that. But I want to go further. I want to see the reason behind. And if, when they are explaining the reasons why they left Christianity, or the reasons why they got hurt, or the reasons why they are not Christians anymore, if these reasons hold up to what the Bible teaches. Or maybe they are twisted reasons. So they thought they were Christians, or they thought that they were being taught real Christianity, when in reality it wasn't. It was a fake version of Christianity, or it was something, some half-truths about Christianity, but it wasn't the whole picture. And so again, I'm not attacking personally any of these people. I'm just using their example to try to argue about the broader picture about the deconstruction movement and about why people are leaving Christianity. And in particular, Mindshift, I've looked at some of his videos because of the fact that I like the way he presents the arguments. It's pretty concise, even though some videos are longer, but he's pretty concise and he tries to argumentate, and to give reasons for why has he left Christianity. Here in the channel, he says that he was a fundamentalist Christian. He was a former fundamentalist Christian. So I don't really know what that means. If he was like a Baptist or like maybe a Calvinist or something, some of that sort, or maybe evangelical prosperity gospel kind of Christian. I don't really know. But he says here that this channel is dedicated to videos about free and critical thinking. And his goal is to be open enough to follow the truth, no matter where it leads, and to help others to do that also. So this is what's called having an intellectually honest approach. So you are always ready to question your beliefs. You're always ready to change your opinions, to change your perspective, to change what you believe based on what you find, what the evidence suggests, and what is the most reasonable explanation for that particular evidence and for those facts. And this is something that he's saying here in the description of the channel, which is very, very nice. And then he keeps on saying that much of the content here will focus on deconversion and deconstruction from religion. In particular, it's going to be around atheism, agnosticism, skepticism, religion, apologetics, philosophy, especially about Christianity, right? And so I ended up just by chance, YouTube proposing one of his videos. Personally, I like a lot to watch these videos where people have different opinions, different perspectives, and different beliefs about Christianity or about what I believe. And therefore, this allows me to challenge myself, and to challenge what I believe and why I believe it. And unfortunately, I was pretty grieved and I was pretty sad that if you look at his videos or if you look at any of the other people videos about deconstruction, about Christianity, why I'm not a Christian anymore, the reasons why they give can be grouped in these three main areas. The first problem was a problem that there was no effort in the church and the community where they were Christians to think. There was no room to ask questions. There was no room to have doubts. There was no one that could teach them how to read the Bible, what is proper hermeneutics, what it means authorial intent, what it means context, what it means the Old Testament, the New Testament. There was no one, or I don't know if they were, but that instructed them and challenged them when they were Christians with tough questions, and actually answered those questions from a biblical perspective. How all the contradictions that we might find in the Bible are all apparent. So that means that even if they look like they are contradictions, if we take a look at the Hebrew translations, which many times in the Old Testament, is missed because the Old Testament, remember, was written in Hebrew, not in English. So many English translations, yes, they try their best to translate the language properly, but it's not perfect. So in certain situations, it could be that you need to go to the Hebrew to figure out, oh, see, I see now this, even though it looks like a contradiction, it is not really. Or even the Greek in the New Testament. You have to be able to challenge yourself and to face these questions. If you're a Christian in an environment where you're constantly shut down, where having objections or having questions about why and what you believe as a Christian is condemned or is viewed as a sin or is not really encouraged, then you're going to grow frustrated, and you very likely might end like these people right here, thinking that Christianity is false and thinking that the only solution for these contradictions, for these problems that we find in the Bible, right, and we find about the character of God and so forth, the only solution is that they're false. That's why no one was able to answer those questions, or that's why they pushed you never to ask questions. They try to brainwash you, right? And this is not the case, unfortunately. So unfortunately, there are still some Christian communities where there is this behavior, this kind of idea that questions should be encouraged, that we shouldn't have and use the critical thinking abilities that God himself has given to us. And the Bible itself actually encourages us to test all things, to reason, to get to know more about reality, about ourselves, about God. And this is something that the Bible encourages us to do. So, unfortunately, there are some Christian communities that have shut it down, or that have these weird ideas about like questions or doubts like as coming from the devil, or as they are not biblical, but they are actually very biblical. And questions allow you to grow and mature. If you never ask yourself questions, if you never think critically about the Bible, about what you believe and why you believe it, how are you going to be able to defend what you believe once someone is going to come, is going to throw you all these examples, right? Oh, Christianity is bad for this reason, for that reason, for that reason. Don't be a Christian. No, I was a Christian like you, but then I realized that it's much better not to be Christian, because Christianity is a man-made religion with a ton of contradictions, with a ton of different issues, and and you're not going to have any tools to realize the lies or the problems with the arguments that they're trying to attack Christianity with, and you're not going to have any tools to defend your faith, and so very likely you might end up like them. You might end up deconstructing your faith. You might end up not believing anymore. And that's why it's so important to instruct. That's why I have a teenage group in my church, and that's why we constantly have questions. We constantly cover tough issues. We constantly argue, and we argue in a good sense. So in the sense that they're bringing their objections, they're bringing their questions, and we're trying our best to educate them, or to show them different interpretations, different explanations, and different solutions. That there are solutions, other than saying that it's all false. Now, the second issue is an issue of pride. Many of these people, they have this inner sense of righteousness, in a sense that it's common for all human beings. So even Christians, commit this problem and commit this, have this issue. And that is the idea of, the way I think, the way I reason, the way I view the Bible, the way I reason about things must be true, must be real, must be the true solution. And therefore, I'm not trying to look at the Bible, to look at the problems or the hard questions of the Bible, and trying with a humble spirit to understand them, or trying to get to an explanation or a solution, but I'm prideful, I'm proud, and so I say, no, there can't be anything. The God must be this. There can't be such a God. There can't be such a God that commands infanticide and genocide. There can't be, because it goes against my inner conscience, my inner morals, and therefore I'm not even putting the effort to maybe understand why, or the context, or the reason why certain things are described in the Bible, or maybe trying to figure out the reason why, when it's said that God commands, or to God asks to do certain things, or when God judges, or when God acts in our reality, what are the reasons behind? Not just the context of the couple verses earlier and before, the broader context of the book. When was the book written? What is the intent of the author by describing this event, by listing these events? What is the authorly intent? And all these things are things of hermeneutics. These are called hermeneutics, and that's why when you approach the Bible, a literary book like the Bible, you have to have these tools. You can't just approach them with your view, and you can't read the Bible as if you read a modern book, or as if you read literature. You have to approach the Bible with a very important lenses that's going to allow you to decipher or to understand more certain aspects that are described there. Let me do a very quick example. Let's take a look at slavery. You're going to find almost, if not all, the people that say that they were Christians and they're not Christians anymore talk about slavery. Slavery, is condoned in the Bible. God is prescribing slavery to the Israelites. God is prescribing slavery. God is okay with slavery. And so you Christian that you say that you're opposed to slavery, or that you Christian that say that slavery is bad, you're actually against your own God, because in the Bible, God himself condones and approves and decrees slavery, and how to take plunder, and how to make women as and other people as slaves, and so forth. And this is a very common, if not one of the most common arguments presented against Christianity. And you see apologists, like Christian apologists, have answered this in a ton of different ways. There are good answers, there are not so good answers, and there are different perspectives also about it. But again, the problem, like I want to do one step back, right? The problem is that when I read about purchasing people, when I read about taking plunder, when I read about having a servant or having a slave, as certain translations have translated it, when I look at is how I personally know slavery, what I know about slavery, about the modern slavery, or what I know about other cultures' slavery, or what I know about history, the history of slavery. And I think that it is exactly the same, that the slavery or the servanthood that is prescribed or is looked at the Bible is exactly the same as that dehumanizing practice in which human beings are considered like things, in which they have no value, and in which they're treated like property, right? And this is the main problem. This is one of the problems. You can't do that because you're looking with a modern lens. You're looking at the Bible, especially a very specific contexts of the Bible. Because if you look at the passages that they always use about slavery, it's always the passage in Leviticus, it's always a passage in Exodus, it's always a passage in Deuteronomy, and then that's it. They don't have any other passages in the Bible about that, because those are the only passages in which they talk about that, right? Now, the second issue about this slavery part is the fact that, once again, you're not reading the whole picture. So the whole picture is God using the Israelites to make a judgment about those nations, because those nations were practicing abominable things. They were doing child sacrifices, they were doing heinous things, and God gave them time to repent. They didn't repent, and so then God is using Israel as a means to judge and condemn that nation for those practices. And Israel coming then and conquering the people and then taking slaves, in the sense of taking servants, means that now they can be instructed in the good ways of the Lord. They can be instructed about the true God, about how to honor God, how to leave all that heinous and bad things, and they can be instructed to live appropriately, right? And there are many passages in all these, in the same books that these people are claiming against Christianity. There are many passages when they talk about, you're going to treat your neighbor as yourself. If your neighbor is going to acknowledge me, is going to decide to follow me, to obey to me, right, to believe in me, then he's going to be like one of you. He's going to become like an Israelite. It doesn't matter where he came from. It doesn't matter if, he's going to become like one of you. And therefore, all the laws that they applied between themselves, you also have to apply it to them. And one of the laws was that a servant could only serve for 7 years. At the 7th year, he had to be set free. And also every 25 years, all the debts should be condoned. And then if that particular person is very good with the family, has a very good relationship with the family, because of the fact that slaves in that, especially in the Israel context, were not considered like as dehumans or dehumanized, or they weren't considered like with no value. They were seen to be as something that the Lord has given to them, so they had conquered, right? But they were still humans, and they still had to treat them with integrity, with value, because God himself told them to do so. And if they decided to leave aside their old ways and to become like Israelites, then they had all the rights to stay. So to stay in the servanthood position, which was about serving the house, doing manual chores. It wasn't about doing being treated like a dog, right? And or they could decide to leave, and they could decide to have their own family and their own land, right? If anyone would have bought it, or they could have a work, and they could just live out their lives, and they would be treated exactly as all the Israelites. So this just to give you a little bit more context. There is much more to say about that, but it's just to say the context. Like events happening, especially in the Old Testament, about Israel, many times are describing events. So when God says, when you go and you see, there is a man that rapes a woman, he has to marry her, right? Because he has a father. So Like, you don't have to look at God allowing or approving rape, and that's why he says that the man should marry her. Imagine the woman marrying the man that has raped her. No, it would be terrible. It's not that. God is defending, first of all, the honor and the life of the woman, because otherwise the woman would have been left as nothing. Like, no one would have wanted her. So the man had to be forced to provide for her and take her as his wife. But not only that, but just simply this God saying, look, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do these things, right? To rape or to have extramarital affairs or to have these things. But if it happens that one of you sins and do these things, then this is what you should do. It's just God giving order, right? And even Jesus said it himself in the New Testament. Jesus said God allowed, for example, divorce. God allowed it just because of the hardness of your hearts. So it was never intended to be for God to even exist divorce, but because God knows that we're fallen human beings, that we are follow our pleasures, that we follow our desires, that we sin. That's why he put the rules about divorce. He put rules about like rape. He put rules about incest. He put rules about many other things, not because he approves them or he commands them or he decrees them, but simply because he knows that we're fallen human beings, and some might fall and might do these things. So how to do with them? Then that's how to do it, and that's why God gave all these laws. And again, remember, the purpose of all these laws and precepts and decrees was to make the Israel different from all the surrounding nations, so that all the nations could see the difference in Israel and could come to believe also in Yahweh, in the God, the true God. So that was the reason for all these laws. It was to preserve the people. It was to prevent sanitary issues or to prevent diseases, to prevent problems, and at the same time to make them different to other nations, so that they would be seen as different, as holy, as a people of God. Now, close brackets. That was just example for slavery. So I said before, the problem of many of these people, saying, I was a Christian, I'm not anymore, and listing all the reasons, all the issues, all the problems with Christianity, is, once again, the first is lack of critical thinking when they were Christians. So they weren't encouraged to think, they weren't encouraged to ask questions, they weren't encouraged to analyze and to test the Bible and to see why it's reliable or why we should believe it and so forth. The second reason is pride, because they are applying their modern view, their modern mindset to a book that instead needs proper hermeneutics. So it needs proper adjustments, it needs proper interpretation. And in this pride of, I know better than God, I know more than God, I know more about why this is wrong and why this should be wrong, and I know more about the character of God, right? So that's the issue of pride and of having this kind of mindset. And the third issue is that, from what I was able to see, it's just a straight up rejection or kind of hate or anger. I would not know how to describe it, against overall like God, against like religion overall, like religion being seen like as a poison, like God himself is being seen as a poison, as a like a narcissistic character that like demands love, that manipulates people so that we don't have really free will, even though there are passages in the Bible that say that we have free will, but we don't really. And a toxic character that demands worship. When we don't do that, then he punishes us, he tortures us eternally in hell. A God that is gonna wants us to be like little slaves, to be his little slaves. They're gonna be there for him and are gonna constantly worship him only. And this kind of toxic God that it's a moral master because he commits genocide, or he manipulates events to his own good, and so forth. This kind of anger at God, and unfortunately, like, what really makes me sad is that this depiction of God is entirely strawman. So it's entirely false. What they're describing, this God that they're describing, if you look at some of their videos, is the opposite of the Christian God. Like, yes, they have some truths. They describe God in certain ways, right? It is true about certain qualities of God. So it's half truths, but then there are lies there in the middle that then distort entirely the character and the nature of God. And of course, you're gonna be angry against a being that you consider to be a genocider, or to be a homicider, or to be, a lying God, or a God that commands infanticide, or the God that is unforgiving, a God that condemns people eternally to hell for temporal sins. Of course, if you have a distorted version of God and you really think that that is the true God, then of course you're gonna reject it. I've rejected too. I wouldn't worship, I wouldn't love, I wouldn't want to know, I wouldn't respect and submit to a God that is like that. But that is not the real God. That is not the true God that we see from the Bible. And that's why, again, like, I would like to know how many of these people have actually done any proper hermeneutics training and have actually tried to read the entire Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, all of it, with neutral lenses, so trying to understand the Bible about description, about history, about what it's saying, and the Old Testament, New Testament, and then trying to come to the conclusion about these tough questions or these tough answers. I would really like to know, because from how they're describing Christianity, how they're describing the Bible, how they're describing God, it's clear to see that they don't even know what they're talking about. Like, this God that they're talking about is not the real God. That's not the God of the Bible. It's just a fake strawman God that they think is a Christian God, or that they attribute to the Christian God, but it's not really. So again, I've looked different videos about him, trying to understand more. And I really encourage you, in case you're a Christian, I encourage you to watch these type of videos. Watch them, question yourself, go deep into these issues, and challenge yourself as well. Because this is going to make your faith to grow stronger. Don't just let the doubt or the questions overwhelm you and think that the only solution is therefore Christianity is false, or therefore this is not true. But always try to look at, for example, when they're talking, try to look at the half-truths that they say, or the wrong things that they say, or the fallacies that they commit. And in that way, you can understand why their arguments that they're presenting, they all fail, or they are not as true or as good as as valid as they think they are. And I strongly recommend you do this. Remember, never think that as a Christian you should shut down your reason, shut down your logic, shut down your questions and your critical thinking. Reason, ask God questions, ask other people questions, ask yourself questions, research, Google. You're gonna find always the two sides of the medal. You're gonna find people that are gonna say, no, this is all a lie, this is all bad, right? And then you're gonna find the people that are gonna say, no, this is a way in which we reconcile this. This is a way in which we can explain this. And then follow the truth. We all have an individual journey. I can't talk to or know how you personally are gonna do this, but I strongly recommend you to have an open mind, to follow the truth, no matter where it leads, as he says here. And I hope that also I'm praying for this person on YouTube. I'm not personally attacking him. I'm just using him as an example, or as all these other people. And I'm really praying for them that they might understand that their concept of God, their reasoning, the arguments that they're using are not true, and that they think is true. They think that this describes the real Christianity, the true Christianity, but it's not really. And I really hope that they can open once again their mind, their heart, to God and to His truth, and therefore they can meet Jesus, and they can meet the real God that is gonna make Himself known, and and His truth is gonna guide them into all truth, into all the light, and that they're gonna finally be able to understand. We're not guaranteed that we're gonna be able to understand everything exactly as the Trinity, right? Or as how a infinite being like God can actually become a human being. Was called the Jesus, God becoming a human. How can we know how this happened, or explain scientifically, or explain even with arguments? We don't. So there are certain things that we will never be able to understand because they are just beyond our capability at the moment to understand. But this doesn't mean that everything is beyond our capability to understand. And God has made it pretty clear all the things important about Himself, about us, about reality, about the world, and He has given us plain understanding and plain reasoning. So when we don't accept them, or when we reject them, we're doing it willfully, and we're doing it understanding it completely, entirely. So there is no excuse, as Romans 1 says. When someone is going to stand in front of God and say, well, God, you didn't give me enough evidence. You didn't reveal yourself enough. No, that's why I didn't come to believe in you. Or why would you let the Bible be written in such a way that presents so many apparent contradictions, right? Isn't that bad for you wanting people to come to you? No, all these arguments against God when we're going to be standing in front of God are going to be without excuse. Because if God has done things in the way He has, that means that it's sufficient. There is sufficient evidence for those who are willing to humble themselves, for those who are willing to come to know God, they're going to find Him. And for those instead who are not willing to submit and are willing to live their own lives and want to be the gods of their own lives, to reject those. And that's it. The evidence is sufficient in both ways. God is not forcing anyone to believe in Him. And it's just making very clear that this decision, this choice, has consequences, exactly as any other choice in our reality. When I choose to do one thing and not the other, this choice has consequences. And the more you go on in life, the more you can see that certain choices have more importance and bear more consequences, positive or negative, than others. This question right here about where to put your faith, where to put your trust in, if in Jesus Christ, or if in yourself, or in another philosophy or religion, determines the eternity, where you're going to be spending your eternity. So it's the most important question. So I hope that you can spend your time to think about these issues, and I really pray for you. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. God bless you, and see you. Bye bye.